Hello, retro fans. So, I know C64 videos has been a bit more scarce on my channel in the last time. Well, because there are so many other interesting retro things around, and since I moved from one place to another, and I had to make some space in the place where I usually live, so it's a little bit complicated, but actually I'm in some sort of commute flat, so that's because of my job. But since we are working on bringing our main home into some sort of a livable place, bring it into shape, and we're doing a lot of refurbishment. It was simply required to move things from A to B to make some space to have more flexibility in terms of what we are going to accomplish there. And long story short, I had to move a lot of boxes, a lot of stuff, retro related stuff, to the place where I am right now, at my commute flat. And while doing so, I came up with a couple of, or let's put it another way, I found a couple of things I really had gathered over the years, and I was really interested into bring them into some sort of a usable and usable setup. And I was working on my gaming rig, which may you have seen already. And yeah, while going through all those boxes, I found a lot of things related to the C64 as well as other retro systems. But I'll keep this episode mainly focused on the C64, although what I'm going to present may fit to other systems as well, like some Atari systems, like the Amiga system. It's not going to fit to Sega systems because they're using a different connection method, a different electronical principle. That's not principle, that's probably wrong, but it's the Sega systems are not ground based, they are 5-volt, so high level based, and therefore most of the game controllers I'm going to present today aren't working on the Sega systems. You may damage either your system or the game controller, or in worst case both of them. So that's just some reminder. But well, as usual, let's jump into the topic and see what we have for today. And here we go. And as usual, let's start with a view on my desk, because here we are going to see what's going to be the main thing I'm going to use today. That's actually I call it gaming / demo C64, heavily modified, a lot of interesting things, kernel switch with 8 different kernels, and video output mod. Today I'm using ARM SID as a SID replacement, and a couple of other things. And as you can see, I'm using Easy Flash 3 to get the things loaded I want to load today. And yeah, that's actually my main rig I'm going to use today. And since we were talking about game controllers, we are going to test a couple of games, not very in depth, just to see which controller fits the best to which games anyway. And if you are a more or less frequent visitor to my channel, you may know that my number one game controller is the Centrum Tech 2. Here in its white form, and there's a black form as well. or a black version as well, as you can see here. And this is actually my favorite joystick. It's not fitting to all of the games. I usually do not play because I do not have time. But anyway, this construction is as simple as it is robust. It is using a car valve shaft as the main thing. And it is using a metal ball with a wire attached to it, and this metal ball makes contact with 4 metal plates to change direction, and the buttons are simply bridging 2 contacts with a metal plate as well. So there are actually no real switches inside, and therefore this stick isn't making that much noise. Maybe except for the buttons, but it is way quieter than other joysticks we're going to see today, and it is not very precise, but precise enough. It has some struggles with diagonals because you really have to find the point where you have contact with the 2 metal plates with this ball. This can be sometimes a little bit tricky. So for especially jump and run games, platform games or something like this, where a diagonal movement is crucial, this joystick is probably not the best choice. But for games like, for example, Buggy Boy, racing games or something like this, or international karate, something games in this genre, I think it is very good, very robust. You can play it either holding in your hand or just placing it on the desk and play it more arcade style. And there are just those 2 buttons, they are bridged inside, so it doesn't matter if you play it with your right or with your left hand. And it is almost unbreakable. And if you have some issues, it is quite easy to repair and quite easy to clean if you have some corrosion inside, something like this. So this is really something I love very, very much. And if you have just a view on my screen as well, you can see here there's the Easy Flash, and let's give it a test with gyrus, for example. That might be a bit too loud. So it has no auto fire, so you really have to use your fingers to initiate the triggers. But you can easily go around, and it is really to the point. No hesitation, no issues, and really, really nice. Usually I use a small auto fire adapter in between to get a little bit rid of this strenuous fire button behavior. Now I hit it exactly. And no, it's actually not here. I thought it was here on my desk, but some sort of disappeared. Anyway, yeah, that's actually my personal preference, but yeah, I'm not going to talk about this all night. And still have some sound here, which wasn't planned this way. But yep, let's rewind time a little bit and see what has been some sort of a standard back in the 80s, mid-80s, something like this. And I think one of the first joysticks that were widely available was this QuickShot 2. Fits most popular games on computer systems with auto fire options. So even then, this was already a topic. The box is a little bit beaten up, but this is how it was presented in the shelves. As you can see, this cellophane or whatever, it is already broken because it is stiff and lost its flexibility, but otherwise that whole thing is still in good conditions. And the stick is rather, well, simple. So it has actually no micro switches or something like this. As far as I know, it may differ from model to model. It is using some sort of rubber pads and some sort of a ring or a cross that presses those rubber pads on a PCB and therefore creates contact. And the buttons here are little thin metal pieces which are kind of snapping. If you press them, they snap from one shape into the other, or from one curvature into the other, which provides some snappy feedback and sound, but they tend to break over the time, and they are a little bit tricky to replace if you do not have replacement parts. And as mentioned, we got auto fire on off. So let's give this one a test and see how it is performing in gyros. If it is doing anything at all, or if it is already broken. So it looks like it's not doing anything at all. Did I have the right port? Yeah, I have. Oh, all the fire is working, but beside this, I think it is either full of corrosion or dirt or something like this, or maybe some wires are broken. So it looks like I have to do some repairing. No, it won't come back to life. It's really weird because autofire is working, so it looks like there is indeed a connection, but none of the direction is working. That's really strange. So yeah, that kind of refuses to get tested, but yeah. These joysticks were, as I said, widely available. They weren't really expensive. I think they were around about 20 marks or something like this, so not really a big deal. And as I said, they tend to break, especially with the trigger buttons, quite frequently. And I have about, I don't know, 5 or 10 others in my boxes somewhere. Not in original packaging, but these sticks alone. So I either replace this one with a working one, or I do some repairs on this. I don't know. And the next one, and here we got a price label as well, which is saying 1990 Deutschmark, so German mark. And that's the Quick Gun Turbo Profi with 8 micro switches, and comes with some sort of a presenter window as well, which is a bit dusty and a bit dull already, but nice box. And let's have a look. And it says for Atari, Commodore, Videospiele und Heimcomputer, so video game systems and home computers. So actually it looks like this. Oh, it's a bit dusty inside as well. Or no, it's just some gray tint or something like this. Yep, and it has an auto fire, not a switch. It is a it's a potentiometer, but it is called it. Now I lost it. Well, I don't know. It's like on a mixing device. A fader. Now I got it. It's a fader. Yeah. And as the packaging was saying, it comes with 8 micro switches. And feels a bit loose in terms of the case, and the case feels a bit like they have produced two different joysticks and then they try to fit it together. So it's not really sleek and slim as we may expect this, but let's see if this one is going to work a bit better than the previous one. So the plug is a bit stiff. Yep, it is reacting, so that's actually fine. And you can't see what I'm doing. Here we go. So buttons are working fine. Now let's see if we can engage the auto fire. Yeah. We can adjust this a little bit. So for gyros, we have to keep in mind that it just fires 3 or 4 shots, and then they need to disappear until you are able to fire more of them. So to test this a bit further, we may have to switch the game. But if you are able to adjust the fire rate, oops, and pay attention to what's going on the screen, you get some sort of a constant fire here. And with this, gyros on the C64 is almost too easy to play. So you may consider this as cheating, but for other games, for example, I hope we're going to find it. Nope, it's unfortunately not on this one. Let's have a look. It is maybe here. Nope. That's a bit sad because I was going to play Light Force. And I had planned this for a different joystick as well. Oh, that was wrong. No, it's not here. Oh, that's a bit unfortunate. That's probably using a different joystick port. So I might have used my joystick port switcher. Okay, but here we can test all the fire rates as well. Actually, I do not really see a difference, I have to admit, but it was making a difference in gyros. And yeah, this stick isn't very precise, I have to say, so it is really a bit fuzzy around the middle position. It is probably a good stick for flight games or something like this, where precision isn't the most crucial part, where you just want to, let's say, have a good grip and apply a good amount of force. So it is actually playable, that's okay, but it feels a bit, well, quirky or something like this. And as I said, the case isn't really fitting very well, so this isn't really the best device we can find on the market back then and now. But yep, that's something available back then too. So let's put it back into the box. Thank you for your appearance. And let's move on to the next one. And this is probably the one that's very well known and one of the most famous, well, at least in my opinion, joysticks at all. And that's the Competition Pro joystick with micro switches for more precision and joy of gaming. Okay. And compatible with Atari, Commodore, with adapter, Sinclair Spectrum, Texas Instruments, BBC option available. Okay, so probably not going to need an adapter. And yeah, the box is rather simple. There's no cellophane, no plastic, something like this that may erode over the time. And yeah, it is not really nice. It looks more like something you put in your washing machine or something like this. But nowadays it would be an environmental friendly packaging or something like this. People would make good ideas with this sort of style. And yep, the joystick itself is indeed rather iconic. And I feel a bit betrayed because this one has no micro switches for the buttons. There are different versions of QuickShot Pro. And actually it is really a QuickShot Pro, so I thought maybe it has ended up in the wrong package. But there are at least, I think, 3 or 4 different versions. And as you can hear, it sounds a bit quirky. And this is because this one is using some kind of a rubber ring inside, which is actually doing the damping, adding some force and doing some centering. And there are other models which are we probably going to see today as well. Yeah. So let's move on directly to that one. And this is a transparent one, and here we can see there's a metal spring inside. And this one feels indeed very different. It is not as stiff and reluctant as the rubber version, and makes less noise. And here we can see the 4 micro switches. And how the stick actually operates inside. That's very nice. And here we got no micro switches for the buttons. And if we find a good angle, we can see we have actually some sort of metal tongues inside, and they get pressed by the button. So this is actually a model I tend to use from time to time because it is not so noisy, even if you press the buttons. So it is some sort of enjoyable, I have to say. And this is actually going to be very similar. So it has this rubber ring inside, it has 4 micro switches for the direction, and it has the same style of buttons. And yep, we can well give it a test as well. Let's see how this is going to perform in this game. No auto fire, we have to do this by our own. But actually it feels way more precise than the stick we have used before. So our spaceship is actually, reacting more or less immediately to my input. Whether it is good or not, that's a different question. But except for this strange noise it is making, it is actually a very comfortable stick to use. It is very robust. If you not tend to play games like summer games, winter games or something like this, you have to do a lot of jerking on the stick. It is almost unbreakable. Maybe out of frustration you are able to break the stick, but beside this is a real robust and kind of comfortable to use joystick as well. And as I said, there are many different versions out in the market, or have been, or still there, whatever we want to call this. And there are a lot of special editions as well, as I have presented already with this one, the transparent version. The transparent version is available with this rubber ring as well. I have one in my collection, and I got one with micro switches on the buttons as well. So it looks like they have been mixed together, everything that was somewhere available, but actually you can't do anything wrong with this one if you like this type of joystick. For, let's say, flight games or something like this, it may have a little bit a small stand, so you really have to press it down to the desk so that it remains there. So for arcade games, it's probably a bit too shaky. And if you tend to keep it in your hand, it depends really on the size on your hand. You may have some serious pain after a while because you really have to hold it quite tight to overcome those control forces, especially on the rubber ring version. And the evolution hasn't stopped there, so there's a competition pro whatsoever model which comes with additional buttons and an auto fire option on off or low med high or off med high or something like this. Micro switches in the buttons, no micro switches here, and micro switches for the controls and a metal spring for centering. And it comes with this nice shiny silver finish whatsoever color. Beside this, it is actually the very same thing, just with some additional electronics for the auto fire option. I think it was on while holding and on completely. Yeah, so you do not have to press any button at all. And I think you can disable this one and use the shoulder buttons or whatever it is called for auto fire. I don't know. That's probably a wrong game to test this. So let's see whether we can find a different one. So we need something where we can shoot. It's probably not going to be a pole position. Drop zone sounds good. Yeah. Let's see how this is going to work. Good that we are not going to use a... I forgot to switch. We weren't able to see something, so I'm really sorry for this one. Let me change this quite quickly. Because I'm using my preview monitor as the game monitor today, and therefore I do not see what OBS is actually doing. But it looks like I have to restart OBS to get this changed. So, well, I may have to have a look to the side every now and then. I have changed a couple of things here on my setup, so I'm really trying to get used to this sort of new workflow. And yeah, so drop zone. Yep, that's a game where we have to press buttons. So now we can check. Yep, the shoulder buttons are acting as auto fire buttons. And then so that's auto fire on all the time. It's really a little bit hard to figure out what these switches doing at the bottom of the joystick. So I may have to Google the manual or something like this. Oops. Now it's going to get busy. A little bit too late. But yeah, for games like this joystick is really, really probably the best option because it is very easy to operate. It's very precise. It got this auto fire option, and it is, as I said, almost unbreakable. The micro switches used here are some sort of standard, so they are probably easily available depending on the chip shortage of this world. Not sure if it is affected by this or not. But yeah, I have repaired a couple of those Competition Pros already. And yeah, as I said, they are really lasting quite a long time. So, and to round this up, if you have no space available, or if you are someone with very small hands or whatever preferences, there is even a Competition Pro Micro. And unfortunately, this one is broken. I have this in repair for quite a while. Some of the micro switches are broken. You may imagine that compared to the original one, just to put it side by side, those micro switches are really micro this time. And they are pretty fragile. And I was going to replace them, but one of them is really broken beyond repair, and I wasn't able to find a replacement. Therefore, this one is actually not in operating conditions. Probably going to be to open. No, it has. No, it just got one screw, so we can't open. Yeah, and it is. For my opinion, it is really something for your shelf, more something for decoration or something like this, because it is fragile, it feels fragile, and it won't last very long if you have a long gaming session or if you're really a gaming enthusiast. But well, it looks nice, and it was probably a good idea as well. And let's continue with the joysticks. There's another one which looks very Atari-ish, I have to admit. But this is actually not an Atari joystick. I think it is. No, I forgot it. A Böder joystick or something like this. And this has been produced for different platforms. So not only Atari was using them, but others tended to replicate this one. And as I said, you can use this on your C64 as well as on your Atari because they are actually compatible. So, and this is a very retro-ish joystick, which has very small movements, so it's not really for hard fighting action games, something like this, or it is really more for controlling, let's say, your spaceship within an asteroid field or something like this. So I have seen them available, not related to any system, and just want to bring this up as well. And there's one that actually addresses all the needs you may ever have. And this is the joystick Multifunction 2002 by Elite. I have seen, I have seen this with many different brandings, many different names. I'm aware of at least 4 or 5 different names for this joystick. And it is compatible for Atari, Commodore, and other systems with adapter, which has probably never been released, this adapter. And it has been 59.95 Deutsch Mark, German Mark, and it looks actually like this. You may have seen me using this already in the past. It is one of my, well, probably second most used joysticks I have in my collection. And it is a very robust construction. So it's a metal case. It has an arcade style stick, which is probably a little bit too small for real arcade feeling. It got 2 fire buttons. It has an adjustable auto fire, and we can toggle between joystick and pedal mode. And with this pedal mode, we can play games like Arkanoid, for example. And we have auto fire and normal fire switches. And let's see whether we can find a game where we can test this one. As I said, it is usable for normal games. You can adjust the auto fire rate. Ooh, it is doing something very weird. Why is it flying backwards? Here we go. Yeah, there's almost no resistance to the stick, so you really need no real forces to come on, to apply to the stick. And as I said, we got game over. Adjustable auto fire rate, which is actually represented by this little LED here as well. Not sure if it is really visible. No, it is very, very dim. Can't find a dark spot. But usually you can see. It looks like it's not doing anything at all because it keeps flickering with the same frequency. Ah, here we go. I just have to press a button and now we can see it blinking. Yep. So, actually this way. And yeah, I really love it because it is very versatile because of the pedal controls as well. So let's see whether we can find a pedal game. Android. Da, 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 da. I think I'm using the wrong Easy Flash. I got more than one Easy Flash, and am I looking at the very same games over and over again? May I have flashed the same image to all 3 slots here? No, they are different. Okay, but yeah, it looks like there is no... Ah, these are demos. These aren't games. These are actually demos. One-file demos. So I think that's actually my test cartridge where I tend to flash different Easy Flash images to it. And yeah, that's pretty nostalgic, but actually not what we want to see. So that's sad. So I mixed that up, and I can't come up with a different missile command with a different pedal game than Arkanoid. No, that's actually not what I'm looking for. Well, yeah, unfortunate. That needs to be prepared a little bit better the next time. Yeah, no, there's nothing on this one. Anyway, yeah, so as I said, these joysticks are available with different names, different brandings, and actually quite easy to repair. You can open it, and there's this quite simple electronics inside, nothing fancy, and everything is simply wired, so you can easily solder all that things together. And there are standard micro switches inside, which are available as replacement parts as well. And yeah, if you prefer this type of joystick, then it is probably something you really can go for. And it has some small rubber feet here as well. And if you place it on the desk, it stands there quite reliably. And yeah, so far so good. That has been probably the most expensive joystick back then. And let's put it back into the box. And now let's dive into some game controllers, which are really a bit weird. And let's start with this one. And this is a quick shot joystick, joypad, whatsoever you want to call this. So not especially made for any certain system. And this one was available for Atari computers as well as Commodore computers. Let's see if it is working at all. Yep, it is doing something. Feels a bit jumpy, so it may need some cleaning. So I really need a game where I can't screw up anything because it feels very jerky right now. Maybe it just needs some sort of we even got LEDs for the fire buttons. Hey. Oh, and the fire button is press C to cheat. No, you don't want to cheat, you just want to go on. Almost forgot to switch. So I think the fire button was for changing gears. Oh, it really needs some some cleaning, I think. And maybe that's the wrong joystick port again. Here we go. Oh. Yeah, so it feels a lot like some sort of a weird D-pad controller. Requires some sort of force to operate, which is more or less an internal issue. I have no idea how to change gears. I think with the fire button, yeah, indeed. So yeah, so if you really dislike joysticks in some form or another, then this is probably something you may consider, perhaps in a bit better working condition. So I may need to do some cleaning with this one because it is actually not really doing what I wanted to do. and one still left. So I barely made it around this one. But as you can see, it is doing something, but it's not stirring left. So yeah, I think I really need to clean this one. As you can see, the buttons aren't reacting as reliable as we may need them to react. But yeah, that's actually a pretty unique thing. And as I said, if you like D-pad-like controllers, this may be something for you. Now let's move on to the next weird thing. I was really blown away when I have seen this one, and that's this. That's the Sigma QuickShot 1X whatsoever. By I don't know reason, most of these devices were called QuickShot back then, and yeah, this one is probably the biggest you can find on the market, and it has some, well, let's say Stargate-like appearance. So now we can initiate the address and go to whatever address we want to go, to whatever destination we want to go. And the interesting thing here is that actually the buttons are at the bottom. And if you place that thing on the desk and play it with your right hand or with your left hand, you can actually switch between right hand and left hand mode. Whatever this is going to change, probably is just switching the buttons, which doesn't play any role on the C64 at all. And we got some auto fire option here on the side as well. So you may ask for what sort of games this one is actually usable. You may have a test with oh, wrong joystick port, with one still left anyway, so that's probably more an issue of the game or so. I don't know. Let's see if we can find Buggy Boy, for example. Pit stop. No Buggy Boy here. Well, then let's test pit stop. Pit stop 2. Pit stop 1. Gives me a chance to drink something. Euro Gold, wow. Can't remember seeing this one. Normal or trained game? Normal game. Pit Stop by Epix. Number of drivers 1. Select number of laps 3. So now I have to press the B button. And if I'm going to play this with my right hand, then it's actually working. And if I switch to left hand mode, no, it doesn't matter at all. I really have to have a look inside what's going on there. Monaco. So it sounds a bit quirky. And yeah, we can go left and right, and we can accelerate. So for racing games, that's probably not the best controller, I have to admit. I remember that I have used it for playing Light Force, but I think it's actually not here on my easy flash. Now we can test laser zone. So it's definitely not working for platform games or jump and runs, something like this, or International Karate or Bruce Lee or something like this. That's really not. So I think I just hold it in the wrong. Yeah. So we have to turn it sideways. And now this left hand, right hand thingy makes sense because I think we're going to switch. Then yeah, it is operating in the other way. Okay, so you can switch actually the axis and you play it actually this way. So this is probably a very, very weird game for this sort of controller. Game over. I don't know why I can't shoot that bug, so that's actually a little bit annoying. Yeah, but as you can see, for games like this, it is probably a good controller. So, I think we shouldn't wait until it has hit the button. And now we have figured out what this left hand and the right hand option is actually doing. It is changing the direction of this huge bulb or whatever. For my taste, it's a bit too noisy, a bit too loud. And this huge case is just creating some sort of additional resonances. And therefore it isn't really enjoyable to play at all. In my opinion, controller-wise, it feels surprisingly good. As I said, I have played Light Force, for example, in the past. So everything that goes some sort of smoothly through a star field, something like this, something that isn't really reacting very fast to your input. So probably R-Type or something like this may not fit as good as other games. And it is indeed something that looks impressive on your desk, in your shelf, wherever you want to have this one. So, and that's not the end of strange controllers. There's indeed another one. And this looks like this. And this is indeed some sort of a trackball, but it is actually not working like a mouse. It is, well, mechanically it is actually working quite closely like a mouse, but it is actually just transferring joystick signals, so left, right, up, down. So no analog system, analog signals, or no impulses, for example, and therefore it is not really an alternative for the 1351 or something like this. I think Robin 8-Bit Show and Tell did a very nice video about this one, and I have this on my not on my desk, but in my shelf for quite a while, because I was going to replace those rubber parts here. They are actually no rubber at all. They are really very, very hard. And therefore you can see sometimes there is no really a reaction to what I'm doing here. And I was going to 3D print them. And I think I even did this already, but I can't get off these blue parts. And I'm actually not sure if I'm going to remove them forcefully. So that's the reason why it is still in this condition. So let's see if we are able to play a game with this one. Wrong joystick port. Haven't remembered which one I have used previously. Oh, kind of shoot myself. I can turn that one. That's weird, isn't it? Oh, it is moving in the same direction all the time. So that isn't working the way I have expected it. Oh, and I forgot to switch the picture. I'm really sorry. So next time I have to change this. So up and down is working quite fine, but left and right isn't. Ah, no, I had some sort of a left movement as well. So with this one, I really have actually no control over what's going to happen here. I just learned by accident that I can tilt those, whatever it is called. And yeah, so this is really a very, very strange device. If it is actually working, then you may use this for games like Arkanoid or damn it, now I lost the name. Crackout, for example. And you can use this maybe for painting programs like GeoPaint or something like this, where you think you may use a trackball instead of a joystick or something like this. I really have to check why it is behaving this strange or in this weird manner. But yeah, that's a very, very unique device as well. So, and last and really least, I got another one, which is probably something that hasn't been produced in the 80s. I think that has been produced a bit later. And this is actually a gamepad. Call it Boomerang, and they might have produced boomerangs instead of gamepads, because this is actually really one of the worst game controllers I have in my collection. Everything feels cheap about this. The buttons are feeling cheap. They have a lot of wobble. They feel very, very imprecise. They are very, very imprecise. And the D-pad itself has about 5 millimeters. You can press it down. It is wobbling a lot. It is almost impossible to hit precise diagonal movements. And it has some sort of auto fire mode as well, which can be switched on and off here. And usually it should stay on, but even this isn't working. Oh, I haven't paid attention to this one. So it is really a very, very strange gamepad, and as I said, the quality is incredibly low. It feels very, very rubbish, and it is really no joy to use this joypad. Haha. And yeah, it is indeed nothing I can recommend. So if you see this, it is probably around 10 to 15 euros or something like this. Don't buy it, you're going to regret this. The only thing that almost fits to me is the size. So if you have rather large hands, then this is actually something that fits quite nicely. It has some round shape. It's not as edgy as the NES controller, for example. But beside this, anything else is really not recommendable. Okay, so we made it to the end of this video with some quirks and issues with switching scenes and all that stuff. So I'm really sorry for this one. Next time I really have to do it in a different way. And yep, I hope you had some fun watching this and you had some nice refresh of your memories if you have been part of this in the 80s, early 90s. Maybe you own some of those devices. If I have missed some, feel free to put it in the comment section. If you have any ideas about those devices, some background information, something like this, feel free to express yourself. I'm really looking forward, and I may pick up this topic again if I am going to move to a different system. Maybe going to do this with an Atari or something like this. I don't know. I'm actually going through a couple of tests on the Atari 2600, for example, and I have tested some C64 joysticks on the Atari already. So I can tell that the Tech 2 is actually doing quite fine on the 2600. It is working there. And yeah, that's actually what I had to tell you about. Strange, unique, weird controllers for your 8-bit system. And yep, as usual, thanks a lot for watching. Feel free to like the video, subscribe, join my channel membership, support the channel. I really, really appreciate this. And yep, see you for the next video. Bye bye.